Robert Bianchi is a political scientist with special interests in the Islamic world, and he joins me now live. Good to have you on the program with us. You know, this is such an important moment for Muslims who are required to take part in the Hajj once in their lifetime if they are able-bodied, healthy, and of course can afford it. So what do you think it means that for a second year in a row, Saudi Arabia has restricted access from abroad to just a fraction of what we saw before?
Well, I think it means that there's a temporary respite for the Saudis and for all of the major governments that organize big Hajj contingents, and that this is an opportunity for them to think about how they're going to reform the Hajj going forward when the pandemic is no longer a reason for these restrictions. They're going to have to deal again with larger and larger numbers of people every year, and with harder and harder decisions about how to organize and select and supervise and help these people. And they haven't been doing a very good job of it so far. They've been putting off reforms for many years, and I think that their time is running out. In a way, the pandemic gave them a breathing space, but I don't think they're using it very well to consider what kind of improvements to make in the system in the future. And this worries me.
Yeah, it is a struggle that you see a lot of governments coming up against as they look at ways to reopen and go back to some sense of normality. You know, for our viewers who may not be familiar with what is taking place, talk to us about some of the rituals that we're seeing, you know, from the wearing of the white robes. What does that signify? And then ascending Mount Arafat.
The rituals are very elaborate and quite symbolic and meaningful. It's not really easy to give you a soundbite explanation of each ritual because they have many different layers, and there is enormous difference in the interpretation of the rituals by the various Muslim writers and thinkers. But for example, the ihram is the simple clothing that illustrates what is to come in the afterlife, and that is that one will be buried in a simple shroud and appear before God at Judgment Day in an indistinguishable fashion in which there will be no indication of one's rank or wealth or power on earth, so that all humans, like all pilgrims in the ihram, will be equal in front of God, and they will be judged solely according to their moral value and their virtue in achieving paradise. So from this point of view, the ihram is a very powerful symbol of egalitarianism, the notion that the distinctions that matter so much to human beings are meaningless before God. Distinctions of race, of gender, of class, of language, of religious sect, and so on. That is probably the most important thing to know about the Hajj, because it is the most powerful reminder to all Muslims that they belong to a universal community in which there are no distinctions based upon nationality or race. And this is a very powerful message of universalism that is very much needed in the world today, which is so divided by race and nationalism.
Right.
And where there is increasing desire for a global ethic and something that ties all human beings together.
Right, it certainly is a good message to remember. So talk to us about what we will see take place on Tuesday, which is the first day of Eid al-Adha.
Well, the Muslims will gather in an area known as Minna, and they will proceed uh, to a series of pillars that they will stone. They will throw pebbles, very small pebbles, 7 of them at a time, at these stones. And the stones represent Satan. The idea is that Satan appeared before Ibrahim in order to tempt him to refuse God's command to sacrifice his son, and that in response to Satan's temptation, Abraham threw stones at the devil to make him flee. So the Muslims are reenacting the stoning of the devil, which is more symbolically the rejection of all evil, of all falsehood, of all oppression, of all immorality.
Okay.
There is a very interesting kind of debate among Muslims as to what the specific pillars represent, what kind of special Satans they embody. And some people think that one of the pillars represents the Satan of political power and corruption. Others say, no, it represents the corruption of wealth and plutocracy and greed. And then another group says that the Satans represent religious corruption, especially of a religious elite that is not faithful to the truth of Islam. So you have this idea that there is a kind of a protest, a kind of rebellion against human injustice in these various forms, political, economic, and religious.
All right, and we'll leave it there. Robert Bianchi joining us from Chicago. Thank you so much.